Hello, and welcome to sunny Orlando, Florida, to mark the Council for Exceptional Children's 100th Convention and Expo, where thousands of educators from around the world will come together to learn, share, grow, and connect. And this is CEC TV, bringing you all the latest news at this year's meeting. Today we sat down with CEC's Director of Professional Affairs, Laurie VanderPloeg, to talk about the importance of building and sustaining an effective and diverse workforce. We also spoke with Michigan CEC Student President Kaitlyn Pluimer to talk about the importance of student membership, as well as ask the CEC attendees what they're most looking forward to during this week's meeting. Stay tuned to catch a glimpse at what's taking place this year in Orlando. All right, welcome back. With me today, I have Ms. Laurie VanderPloeg and Dr. LaRon Scott. Thank you both for chatting with me today. So, Laurie, I'll start with you first. A talking point at any CEC meeting is on the importance of building and sustaining an effective and diverse workforce. Now, you came into this role back in March of 2021. So, what is CEC recommending for strategies and solutions to mitigate the workforce shortage?
That's a great question. We are definitely facing a national crisis with this issue, and this is one of the top priorities for CEC. We've embedded it in our new strategic plan as part of our goals and objectives. But what we're currently doing is we're working with numerous other large national organizations, and we are collaborating around the development and certainly the implementation of a webinar series to help the state education agencies, the local education agencies, and the institutes of higher ed really understand how we move from information to implementation. So it's looking at all of those strategies that we know are working, that are exemplar models, and we're going to be working with the field to try and teach them how to get into an implementation mode to try and mitigate the impact of the educator shortage issue. So we're working with probably 12 large national organizations. We feel that there's strength in number, and it takes a village. So the more of us that are working on it, the greater impact that we're going to be able to have, so we can move forward.
Excellent, excellent. And you've recently served as Director of the Office of Special Education Programs in the U.S. Department of Education. So what strategies or ideas can you bring from a federal agency like DOE into a society setup like CEC?
Great. So the initiative that I had when I was with the Office of Special Education Programs was around the attract, preparing, and retaining an effective workforce. So I was able to move that initiative over to CEC and continue with the momentum of that. But one other piece that I really realized is that there's a lack of dissemination of resources. And so we have to make sure that we are getting the information in the hands of the people that have a need to know, so that it can increase their effectiveness in working with our infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities across the nation. So OSEP has a lot of technical assistant funded programs, and very rich in resource that are research-based. They're all research-based. And so it's really, really important that, one, we build strong relationships and we disseminate information.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. And then with your role, you'll also be looking to provide guidance over the standards and professional development activities of CEC. Are there any key tools or resources that members should be looking out and looking forward to for 2022?
Yes, we have a new teacher resource repository that's very exciting for our members. It's members to members, sharing information and resources and tools that they have. So that's new that we're just rolling out, introducing that here at the CEC convention. So very excited about that information. We also have a learning library that has numerous webinars and resources that are available. And we have quite a few professional development opportunities that we have rolled out so far this year. But we also have a number that are in the development. We just created a new membership category for paraeducators. So we have two very strong series of webinars that will be coming out for paraeducators. So, and then the webinar series around attracting, preparing, and retaining an effective workforce. So lots of resources are available through CEC.
Great, and can you expand a little bit on the learning library? Is it accessible, more like an on-demand, so you can do it and have access to it whenever you'd like?
Yes, it's a member-only benefit, yes, which is really, really nice, and it's rich in resources. So our webinar series, any of our professional development is embedded in there. almost every presentation is embedded in there. Other resources that are there, we do a lot of promotion of our publications. And so it's kind of a one-stop shop. And it's very easily to assess or access, and you're able to go in there and really search. So you could look for information around behavior. You could look for information around assessment or instruction, and you're able to pull up the resources to provide you some support.
That's an excellent benefit for the members. That's why I just wanted to know a little bit more about that, so thank you. Yeah.
Accessibility is the key, right?
That's right, that's right. And to you, LaRon, I know you direct the VCU's Minority Education Recruitment, Retention, and Equity Center. Would you agree that more work needs to be done on building and sustaining an effective and diverse workforce?
Absolutely. I think we are just at the start of creating this conversation around building effective teacher workforce. The work that CEC is doing, the work from the VCU Minority Education Center, in collaboration with other organizations, in collaboration with state leaders, with teacher education programs, with school divisions. We're getting together, having this conversation, and I think we're onto something finally with regards to moving the needle on the issue.
Excellent. It starts with a conversation, get everyone at the table. And then you also direct VCU's Teacher Retention and Transition Lab. Do you feel there's a root cause on why the nation has issues with teacher retention in special education?
So I don't think there's a silver bullet answer to that. I think there's a culmination of factors that go into that. And what we're trying to do is continue to look at the data, be informed by the data, and making decisions based on the data. We're also really trying to figure out what are those innovative strategies that, as Laurie put, can go from information to implementation on, which we are getting better at in the field. But when we dive a little deeper and we look at the issue, it waxes and wanes over the years, right? So we can look at the last 2 years and we can see that the pandemic has had an effect on teacher retention, on teacher attrition. We can look prior years and we see other factors that contributed to those issues. So it's keeping our finger on the pulse while also moving the needle at the same time.
It's ever evolving, ever evolving. Well, thank you both for taking a moment to chat with me today. We greatly appreciate it, and enjoy the convention.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So can you tell me a little more about the role of the student president and your involvement in the Michigan Council for Exceptional Children?
Yeah, so as president of the Student Board for Michigan, I kind of help oversee a group of 5 or 6 different student members, and we kind of plan out our annual conference student strands. So for the conference ahead, I think as a student strand ourselves, we have 3 conferences, 3 sessions that we did ourselves, but then we also have sessions that came in from other people that applied for a session. And then as the student board president, I also get to come to National CEC and kind of represent Michigan as a student. And we also think of fundraising ideas, and we're just trying right now especially to boost our membership for our student strand of things because it's not very strong anymore. So we're doing a lot with that right now, is like trying to figure out how to boost student membership.
Very nice, and I'm sure you agree that both the state and national levels, the CEC would love to see more student members like you mentioned. So can you tell us a little bit more about the CEC's student membership and what it can offer someone?
So the student membership has a ton of different things that go into it, and I definitely don't know everything. But I know the biggest thing for me is like you get to make contact with all kinds of different people. When you go to the national convention, you go to your state conference. So a lot of that connection building is really fun and cool to see, and just learning about new things that aren't taught in my coursework. And then also they also have a big thing is a liability insurance for us, especially while we are student teaching and teaching if that's something your school doesn't provide for you, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and that relationship building is so important because even beyond while you're in school, you can have these friendships and professional relationships throughout your career.
Yeah.
And then now the CEC wouldn't exist without hundreds of volunteers across the nation. So can you tell us more about the volunteer opportunities available with the CEC?
So with CEC, most of the positions are volunteer. So I know as the student president, I am a volunteer position, and the person that helps oversee the student board is volunteer. So it's just becoming a member and finding out all the volunteer positions. You can be a member at large, you can serve on our board of directors, you can join a committee once you're a member. So it's just, and then of course all the volunteers that help us run our conference when it is in person, like right now.
Yeah, very nice. Have you been able to meet any other fellow student presidents?
I have not been able to. I haven't looked around very much.
And I know it just started, so hopefully over the course of the convention, you'll be able to meet some of your colleagues.
That'd be really nice.
Well, thanks so much for speaking with me. Enjoy Orlando and safe travels back to Michigan.
Thank you.
Hey, Kane, so what are you looking for this year at CEC?
The opportunity to learn, first off. That's every year. We're in an ever-changing world in education, and we're learning how to do virtual while teaching in person and teaching students who have gone through trauma. This experience, past year and a half, 2 years, has been traumatic for our students. So how can we help them in our positions as teachers, as administrators, as people who are connected to the classroom but not necessarily in the classroom? So how can we prepare for that next level of learning with this care involved?
And I know you mentioned you're a special education consultant, so what are the benefits for coming here to the CEC Convention and Expo that can help you to help others?
Yeah, I work with 5 schools, middle schools and elementary schools. So I work with a variety of different kids through those schools. So learning what I'm going to learn here, I get to take back and then affect 5 schools. Previous years, I was able to affect my classroom, possibly my school. Now I have the reach to be able to do 5 schools and really put into practice what we're teaching, what we're wanting to go, the direction we're wanting to go.
Right. Well, thank you so much and enjoy the time here and safe travels back home.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for speaking with me. So what are you looking forward to attending the CEC convention?
Well, it's been a long time since I've gotten to see some of my colleagues and friends from across the country, so I'm looking forward to seeing them in person and just sharing in the scholarship that people have continued and persisted with during this difficult time and hearing the innovation that's come from some of the challenges we face.
Great, and I know you said you're based in Atlanta, and so what in the realm is your profession that has to do with, that's affiliated with the CEC and special education?
Well, in Atlanta, I'm the Associate Dean for Faculty Development and Equity in the College of Education and Human Development at Georgia State, and I'm a faculty member in the Department of Special Ed, so I work with teacher candidates who are preparing to go out into the field to serve students in P-12 settings who have exceptional needs. So that's what brings me to the Council for Exceptional Children.
Great, you're making impact all around. Well, thanks so much for speaking with me and enjoy Orlando and safe travels.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Allison, thanks for speaking with us. So what are you looking forward to at CEC this year?
So I'm most looking forward to learning about some inclusive strategies that I can use in the classroom, especially co-teaching. There's a session today about different co-teaching strategies, and I'm hoping to bring that back to my co-teachers so that we can better include all of our special education students with our general education students.
Very good, and I know you mentioned you're 3 years in, so hopefully next year will be a little more post-COVID or normalcy in COVID so you can have a normal year of teaching.
I'm hoping so. I'm getting through.
Great. Well, thanks so much. Enjoy Orlando and safe travels back and forth.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care. The Texas School Ready program is a comprehensive preschool teaching training program that has proven effective to close achievement gaps for at-risk children. The program is housed at UT Health's Children's Learning Institute. Let's take a closer look.
Children's Learning Institute has a focus and a mission to support very high-risk children who might have learning problems later on, often because of factors such as poverty. We do research, clinical programs, and a lot of work in schools to help teachers and parents support their children's development. The Children's Learning Institute has a very unique model. We first start with the research. With grants, we can test out whether our programs are going to be effective with teachers, families, and children. Then we partner with agencies across the state and the country and take that program into real-life settings. We do that with the use of technology. The Texas School Ready program is one of the Children's Learning Institute's big efforts. It came about from the state of Texas legislation saying to us, find something that works with child care centers, with teachers in public school, or with teachers in Head Start. The components of the Texas School Ready program that were found to be effective in our research are intensive professional development to train teachers in literacy, math, social skill development. It's a progress monitoring system that helps teachers know how children are developing, a curriculum, and face-to-face coaching to support teachers to put the program in place.
Alief is a school district in the west side of Houston, Texas. It's one of the most diverse school districts in the state. We have around 90 languages in our classrooms, and we have a highly diverse population. And in general, the community is known as the international district in the city.
So Alief ISD's mission is preparing students for tomorrow while caring for them today. And it is our belief that we need to start with our youngest learners. So there's a lot of emphasis on early childhood education in our district. Well, the Texas School Ready program has definitely benefited our district. In the past 5 years since I've started working with Alief in this capacity of early childhood department, one of the things we wanted to do was increase the communication and the collaboration with the private child care centers. And Texas School Ready has allowed us to do this. And we've seen, when we look at the data, we see that the students that are in the Texas School Ready program are outperforming those students that either were at home or in different childcare settings.
I have seen a lot of benefits of the Texas School Ready program already in our community. A lot of the times teachers come to us after 1 or 2 years of training and they tell us, I feel like a teacher now. Families have been making comments about the benefits of the program, and whenever they see now the banners of the Texas School Ready, they know that there's quality in that center and they want to get their children there. My main hope is a professionalization of the field, getting better opportunities for teachers, for students to learn more and be ready for the challenges of the school and the life.
Developing Talkers is a fun program for early childhood teachers to use if they want to improve their children's language skills. So it's 2 parts. It's a supplemental curriculum based on read-alouds and small group lessons, as well as professional development for teachers to learn how to facilitate rigorous and challenging conversations in their classroom. Part of what's innovative about the Developing Talkers program is that it exemplifies the Children's Learning Institute model of research to practice. So we started with developing a curriculum based on teacher partnerships and teachers' articulated needs. And then we did many, many years of iterative development with teachers to refine the model and to constantly improve the Developing Talkers program. And now we are moving into larger efficacy studies that continue to unpack exactly what makes this program effective for teachers and students.
I think the Children's Learning Institute is particularly unique because we have this broad array of expertise in the Institute. Faculty that are experts in math, literacy, STEM, language, and all of that expertise comes together in a very integrated, collaborative way to support the work we do for the children of Texas. Brain development in the early years is so critical to children's later learning. And so the role we will play at the Children's Learning Institute in this future goal is to provide resources not just for children in the pre-K years, but in the infant and toddler years when the brain is so rapidly developing and it's in response to stimulation.
The Community Learning Center serves as an important role at Cleveland State University and the College of Education's curriculum and programming to help local communities, families, and school districts within the state. We caught up with CSU leadership to learn more about the center's work.
The center was founded over 25 years ago here on the campus at Cleveland State University in the College of Education. It started as a small program in one classroom on our campus, serving about 2 to 3 classes per semester. And the objective was mainly to provide a supervised setting for our College of Education teacher preparation students to practice their teaching skills under the supervision of the faculty here at Cleveland State University. The key programs we have in the CLC are in-person academic tutoring and assessment support services. We also offer remote academic tutoring and assessment support services. We also have an outreach tutoring program that meets in the schools in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. The volunteer tutoring program at the CLC trains tutors to work with K-12 learners in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Additionally, we train students who are not education majors but may be interested in learning more about the teaching profession. So students from other colleges within our university can apply to be a volunteer tutor and receive 4 hours of training to tutor students in our outreach program.
Working in the CLC has a huge impact on the community. First and foremost, it has a great impact on future educators like myself. It gives me the opportunity to come in here and work with the student, assess him or her, and then give instruction on it. And it helps the student because not every student who comes here has a disability, but some do. So it gives us the opportunity to work with students who are struggling. It gives us the opportunity to work with students who have disabilities and are in our communities. And it gives us the opportunity just to practice, and it gives us the opportunity to prepare for educators and almost learn on the job. I don't have a special education background. My undergrad was not in education, so I've been able to come here and really learn about the assessments and give them to the students and then grade them. It's a great change of pace to come in here because you're working with the student. It's not sitting, falling asleep in a class or grinding after, a day in school like I had. So it's nice to be able to come in here and get to work. You know what I mean? It's different.
The tutoring program here at CLC is very important to the community. Not many parents can afford tutoring outside of here, and having the opportunity to bring my child here for the month is phenomenal. She went through reading, and that's where she was struggling the most at. And Hannah, who was her tutor, she did an outstanding job. She used to want to be a hairstylist, but now she comes home and says she wants to be a teacher. When my daughter came home from tutoring, she wanted to tutor her toys, her kids. And that's how I noticed this program made a difference in her life.
The Community Learning Center is an important part of our curriculum and our program. There are 2 parts to this. One is it's an opportunity for the College of Education and Human Services at Cleveland State University to serve our community. That includes our parents and K-12 students in Cleveland, as well as our neighboring school districts. It also helps our students who are preparing to become teachers. This is an opportunity for them to work with students prior to their field experiences and prior to them going out and doing their practicum and their student teaching in their final semester. This kind of work prepares them to be better teachers.
The I'm Determined project, a state-directed project funded by the Virginia Department of Education, focuses on providing direct instruction, models, and opportunities to practice skills associated with self-determined behavior. Their website offers endless resources and tools for educators to use when focusing on self-determination with their own students. CEC TV caught a glimpse of what the amazing project is all about.
Back in 2006, the Virginia Department of Education was looking at post-school outcomes for students with disabilities. And we found that students weren't attending their IEP meetings. They couldn't really explain what their disability was. They couldn't really name any rights under IDEA or any accommodations they were supposed to be getting as a result of receiving special ed services. It was kind of a wake-up call. What we realized is we shouldn't be surprised that we're not seeing positive post-school outcomes because students really aren't, receiving the services they need and certainly aren't aware of what their strengths, preference, interests, or needs are. At that time, 3 different universities across the state and the Department of Ed came up with this idea of, well, let's focus on self-determination.
Self-determination, what we like to teach to the youth is just really being able to think through situations on your own. Doesn't mean that you're always by yourself or isolated, but it's knowing how to ask for help and when to ask for help when you need it, and then when to kind of take things on by yourself. The structure of I'm Determined, we have a statewide network that works in regions. So Virginia's split up into superintendent regions. We have youth leaders in each region, and we have what we call determinators in each region, which are the adult staff. And what we do is we combine those efforts and try to work with students, educators, and parents if they're wanting to know about how do I get my youth involved in their education. I've seen students go to their own IEP meetings and be involved or lead the meeting. What do I need to do that? That's when we can step in and say, okay, we have tools that can help you kind of prepare for something like that. But we also have these youth who have been through it and can share their story.
In elementary school and middle school, I didn't have a good understanding of my disability. All I knew was I was a little bit different because as everyone else was sitting in the class taking their test, I would always be taken out, or I'd be taken out of my classroom at random times. Going into the IMD project, I learned a lot more about myself and the struggles that I have with my disability, like my processing and my flipping of words, and not just words, but sometimes concepts and things like that. But I also learned, how to advocate for myself and like what I need. To go and advocate for yourself for people who understand, it's a lot easier to put yourself out there, and once you start getting comfortable with people that you're comfortable with, it's easier to do it with people who may not understand what you're going through as much. But you have the confidence now to go out there and say, hey, this is what I need, and for me to work at my best level.
I think my own personal journey that also I think is reflective of the organization is that I came into this project thinking I have to be the advocate, that I have a lot to speak to the answers that are needed in the educational system. And I think as we've developed and we've grown, it's been a lot less of myself speaking into that and a lot more of empowering individuals with disabilities and youth with disabilities to speak into that. If I'm the one saying it instead of the youth, there's a lot of presuppositions or a lot of assumptions that I'm making about that person's experience. Whereas if it's the person speaking themselves, it's their identity, it's their world, it's their experience, and that's invaluable to hear.
I can't say determined gave me a voice, but I can say that they gave me a lot of opportunities to use my voice and get comfortable with the fact that some people might not understand me, but I still get my point across.
First of all, self-determination is not an end goal. It's something you're constantly working on. It's a journey. And barriers don't end just because you graduate high school. If you go on to college, there's barriers. If you go to work, there's barriers. And watching them successfully navigate that and then share those stories with us, I mean, that's the best. That's what keeps me going.
Zorro Institute on Transition and Self-Determination at the University of Oklahoma is best known for their online tools to help educators develop transition and self-determination skills for their students. Despite the new name, the Institute has offered timeless resources for educators and their students over the years. Let's take a closer look.
The state of Oklahoma has been experiencing teacher shortages for the past 3 decades. Among those is special education, along with mathematics, science, and foreign language. Those have traditionally been the high needs areas. As we've moved forward in the last decade, special education is especially a crisis area. So part of what I see as a College of Education, an important endeavor for us is to help meet those needs. And so at the University of Oklahoma, in the Janine Rainbow College of Education, we have the Zaro Institute for Transition and Self-Determination. And one of the things that it does so well is, of course, focus on that specialized area in special education that's transition. We know for special education students that there are transition points all along the way through their time in public schools and beyond. So from elementary school to middle school, from middle school to high school, and then from high school into college or into the working world. And the Zaro Institute focuses specifically on that.
The Zaro Institute is most known for a lot of the resources we have to offer educators and teachers to develop transition and self-determination skills for their students. Our website at the Zaro Institute is filled with resources that are free for teachers to use while they're teaching. One of our most popular resources is the Transition Assessment and Goal Generator. This is a transition assessment in which teachers can utilize to help plan for the transition portion of their IEPs each year. One reason that the tag is so popular is that suggested annual transition goals are given at the end of this assessment, and educators can use those goals, tweak those goals, and make them appropriate for their individual students.
We have a couple of lesson plans and curriculums that we have online. Our biggest curriculum that is very popular is the Me curriculum, and it is popular on our Teachers Pay Teachers and our website. We have thousands of downloads a month. It is a pretty large curriculum, but has some wonderful things and resources on there. We also have the Choice Maker curriculum. It's a large curriculum as well, but then to accommodate those teachers who don't have time to teach this year-long curriculum, we have lesson plans on there. We also have these things called one-pagers that we've been putting out that have a lot of information on one page, and they're linked up. So teachers can click on them and it'll bring them to a website that they can use to help create post-secondary goals for students. We have one-pagers that have all of the information on how to get students involved in the IEP, from short little snippet ways to all the way up to those curriculums. And I think that that's one of the great things is they're a one-page document that you can pass along to teachers. They can use it however they need to use it.
One of the programs that the Zaro Institute offers is the Sooner Works program. This is an innovative college experience program for young adults with an intellectual or developmental disability. These students are able to come to OU, live in OU housing, participate in OU coursework, join student organizations, and really get the full college experience as with any degree-seeking student. With this, both our students in the Sooner Works program and regular OU students benefit greatly. Our students in the Sooner Works program learn really important independent living skills, what it's like to be an adult, and the regular OU students learn how to interact with students who have an intellectual or developmental disability. We know that the regular OU population is the next generation of leaders in this country, and the more familiar they are with young adults and adults with disabilities, the more those students are able to acclimate into regular life. So not even 50 years ago, we had a culture that was saying women can't go to higher education. We had a culture of people saying people of certain races and ethnicities could not benefit from higher education. We've totally proven all of that wrong because women have excelled, people of color have excelled. And now it's time for individuals with disabilities to show that they are just as capable of going to college as with all these other populations. It is important for us to make sure that college is appropriate, that college is accessible, and really allow this population to achieve their highest potential.
Since the Education for All Handicapped Children Act passed in 1975, SRI Education has pioneered 6 national longitudinal studies over the course of 3 decades that's unlocked fundamental insights for special education policy and research communities. Combined, these programs impact 15.6 million children and youth today. CEC TV wanted to learn more about this historic institute.
Back in 1975, Congress passed the very first Education for the Handicapped Act, and that was the very first law that mandated that all children with disabilities receive free and appropriate education. So for the first time, many students with disabilities were enrolling in public schools. They passed legislation that asked the Department of Education to commission a study that would focus on students who were in high school, students with disabilities, and then follow their lives into young adulthood. And SRI won the very first contract to design and implement this study. When it became particularly clear that this study was of huge value was during the amendment to the law. And so Congress passed appropriations to have the Department of Ed have more funding to be able to fund studies that looked at students with disabilities across the age range.
It really started with a 10-year study that was conducted. It's called the NEILS study, the National Early Intervention Longitudinal Study, that followed children who were initially in the early intervention program when that first came into law. IDEA included young children with disabilities in 1986. NEILS is the first and only national study of its kind that gave us the information that we have that now informs our technical assistance. As a result of the studies and the research that have been done here at SRI, we have considerable expertise and knowledge about providing technical assistance to states. And we help states implement that to improve their programs for young children with disabilities and their families. But we also learn from our communities that we work with on the research that needs to be done so we can help improve their services.
Our student behavior research program focuses mainly on applied research. We conduct large-scale studies in schools all over the country, from preschool, elementary, middle school, high school, and also focus on children post-secondary. Our research is focused on helping children with behavior disorders, mental health problems, children exposed to trauma, and our level of research focuses on individual students, small groups, classroom level, to whole school programs. And the focus of the project, we want to make sure that when we start with the research study or start with the intervention, that we start thinking about sustainability from day one. When the grant is over at the end of 3 years or 4 years and we're finished, how can those teachers or the principals continue to implement the program in the schools after we leave?
Special education students, the majority of their academic experience is actually in inclusive general education classrooms. Now, in order to be truly inclusive, we really need these students not only to obtain the appropriate accommodations and supports, but really be in a learning environment that enhances the learning, not just for the student with disability, but for all students in that classroom. So one way that we can approach this is through the Universal Design for Learning framework. And this is an approach that really at its core is meant to identify our understanding that what may be necessary for some students, so those with disabilities, really is meant to benefit all students. With any data that's out there that looks at a nationally representative sample of students in the US with disabilities, SRI has been involved in that work, either as leading the data collection or contributing in some way to these longitudinal studies. From this work that we've been doing, we have affected directly over 15 million students with disabilities in the United States. And that is just tremendously gratifying to know we've had that kind of impact through our research.
The University of Missouri College of Education and Human Development strives to prepare leaders in education to assist children, youth, and adults with disabilities to be academically and socially successful lifelong learners. With numerous national leading centers and initiatives to its name, CEC TV took a look and a glimpse at the activities in Mizzou.
There are a number of key issues that the nation is facing related to teacher professional development in science and mathematics. What are the best ways to prepare our special educators to teach math and science? We still need to do a lot of research and thinking more deeply about how we do that. And then at large, there's a real shortage of teachers for teaching math and science. So how do we fill those gaps and how do we fill that need? And then how do we prepare the general educators, though, to teach science and math to our students with disabilities? Our department, the Department of Special Education, has numerous projects that are making significant impacts in the state of Missouri, in the schools and districts, and at large.
So at John Warner, we have about 20% of our students who receive special education services as a part of their education. We continue to have students come in and student teach with us. And so there are a couple other teachers here who went to Mizzou who are now host teachers for students at Mizzou. And so I think being in Columbia and being a part of Columbia Public Schools and the tie that they have with Mizzou, it's really kind of special, it's really important. Being able to kind of go back to your roots and even as a host teacher, continue to learn through what that student teacher is bringing from their classes directly is beneficial to both parties. So we're teaching, but we're also still learning from what they're doing at Mizzou and asking their interns to do.
Behavior concerns are universal. They vary school to school, district to district, state to state, but one constant is all schools will deal with children and youth who display challenging behavior. And one of the things we know is that the sort of traditional kind of get tough, zero tolerance, trying to punish kids simply doesn't work. So there's this need to sort of rethink. And our focus is about building appropriate skills, not simply trying to reduce problem behavior. In other words, we want to build pro-social skills that we know will help them be successful both in school as well as post-secondary.
I'm working on a couple of different projects right now. One that focuses on middle school mathematics. So we're working with middle school math teachers to help support them in supporting their students who have some great need in learning. This is part of an Office of Special Ed funded program called Project STARE. I also have an early writing project where our focus is supporting and coaching teachers who are working with students who are struggling and have intensive needs in early writing. We've been really fortunate that during the time that we've been working on these projects, we've seen really positive impacts. For instance, with the early writing project, over the time that we've been collecting data, we've seen positive impacts on student outcomes, but also really positive impacts on teacher outcomes. And we're seeing those results sustain, which is really a goal of ours, not to just have it be while we're in the moment, but we hope that these impacts and the work that we're doing sustains over time.
I'm a proud Mizzou alumni, so I attended Mizzou for my undergraduate degree. Prior to my PhD program, I was a staff member with Missouri School-Wide Positive Behavior Support, which is housed in the special education department. Working with other students who were part of the PhD program and learning more about it and the department itself and the faculty and the experiences is what encouraged me to apply.
When I was searching for programs, Mizzou was the only university that had a special education department within the College of Education, and they had a degree specific to emotional behavior disorders, and I thought it was just the perfect fit for me. This opportunity at Mizzou has allowed me to take part in IES grants and gain the experience that a world-class researcher needs in order to make their mark in academia, in writing, in research. So I feel very lucky, very blessed, very fortunate to have this experience at Mizzou.
And that's it from us on day one of CEC TV. Be sure to check out all of the content we've highlighted from today's program on the CEC's social media platforms and exclusively in the Marriott hotel rooms on Channel 52. Till tomorrow, it's goodbye from CEC TV.